Chapter 1. What Super Nintendo Taught Me About Manifesting. Open quote. It's a funny thing about life. If you refuse to accept anything but the best, you very often get it. End quote. John Kehoe, Quantum Warrior, The Future of the Mind. Most people wouldn't expect the same personality who does engineering to also be a life coach. So how did I go from engineer to life coach? I've had some defining moments along my journey. They always came with a fair amount of discomfort. One of those moments occurred while I was working in Toronto as an HVAC engineer. One weekend, my wife and I were driving north to Sudbury in our Honda Accord to see family. We were talking about the new job I started 6 months earlier, and I remember saying to my wife, I feel depressed. And my wife says, is it me? I said, no, of course it's not you. I said, it's the work I'm doing. I felt this rigid programming take over when I was in my job. It was as if there was two of me. One part of me felt that I should keep everyone happy. Keep the peace. Don't ruffle any feathers. Don't rock the boat. Don't do anything that will upset anyone. Don't stand up for yourself, especially if it might upset someone else. We wouldn't want that. The other part of me, the real me, was screaming inside to do the things that made me feel happy. To be true to myself, to honor my feelings. I needed to speak up for myself at meetings when I felt guided to do that. I needed to explore, to be creative, to try new things, to be less rigid and more adventurous. The real me was getting louder and louder. I knew I needed to make a change, but the truth was I felt trapped. One part of me had taken the job in Toronto because it was the right thing to do, and the money was good, yet the real me was pushing to emerge. It wouldn't stand down. I started working on projects for two different senior engineers. They both had conflicting ideas about which projects were the most important. Imagine walking into a meeting where you're told the project X needs to be your highest priority. You leave that meeting and walk into another meeting 5 minutes later, and you're told by a totally different supervisor that project Y is more important than project X. It was driving me nuts. I was pulling my hair out because I wanted both supervisors to be happy with me. I had this so-called disease to please. I was miserable. Pleasing others was a trap I had created for myself. I desperately wanted out. That's when I started looking for answers. I decided to open my mind to new ideas. I decided I was going to do something different because the pain and internal discomfort were too much to bear. I had to change course. So I started reading books and becoming more receptive to new ideas. One of the first books I read was Think and Grow Rich, written by a guy named Napoleon Hill in 1937 at the height of the Great Depression. The book has sold over 15 million copies. It blew the limitations on my mind wide open. The idea that you could think and grow rich was revolutionary for me. The second book I read was Tony Robbins' Unlimited Power. Robbins describes how he helped top performers achieve at their highest level and how readers can use the same techniques to accomplish their own goals. Both of these books expanded my mind. I could identify with what the authors were saying. It was all about empowering yourself, feeling empowered, and being self-reliant. It was about doing things that made you feel happy and fulfilled. I desperately needed to hear this message. It was a lifeline. As I was reading these books and others like them, I started making different decisions. My perception changed and I came to a new understanding that I could think and become rich. Gradually, I began to invest in live training and meeting other people who were on a similar journey. The first personal development course I took was in February 2006 in Toronto. It was a training course that involved coaching. We participated in a large group of around 100 people once per week and then had smaller groups of 6 members where we did the coaching led by one coach. During the second week of this course, the leader of our group quit. She just left with no warning. Now, there were 5 of us left. Everyone looked around and asked, who's going to be the leader now? Without any hesitation, I raised my hand and said, I'll do it. I was starting to speak up for myself and following my inner guidance. It felt good, but I didn't care about being the leader for the sake of being the leader. I raised my hand because I wanted to do the coaching. That's when my life really started to change. Coaching was a godsend. I loved coaching. It was better than breathing. It made me feel alive. I got to help people and change lives. My outlook on life was becoming very different. As I was coaching and going through these changes, I ran into the best man at my wedding. "You're a totally different person," he remarked. I was happy and the difference was noticeable. I realized that we're all happier when we are actively pursuing our potential. We don't want to be locked into a room or an office or a cubicle and be left for dead. We want to be truly experience life. We want to do this through our own growth. My energy had changed when I got into coaching. Like many coaches do in the very beginning, I started offering it for free. I loved it. Coaching was giving me life and I had a renewed sense of purpose. I kept coaching while I was working my full-time job, and it was now around 2008, right near the time of the great financial crisis. By this time, I had been working at my engineering company for about 5 years. All the while, I was attending more seminars, reading more self-help books, and generally meeting more and more people who were like me, human beings who believed we had more potential. During one of those seminars, I got this wild idea. What if I quit my job and started a coaching business? It didn't take long for this to become more than just an idea. In the fall of November 2009, I quit my job. My wife thought I had got off the deep end. We had a mortgage and bills to pay, but I was convinced I could do this. Dennis was the president of the engineering company at the time. I still remember the day I walked into his office. It was a small company with around 200 employees, and Dennis always had an open door policy. I walked right into his office and asked him if he had a few minutes to chat. I told him I was going to leave to start this coaching business. He walked right up to me and gave me a big hug and congratulated me. That was unexpected. He must have somehow picked up on my enthusiasm. Dennis told me that I could work on contract with the company during my transition. That would give me a chance to put some money aside instead of going cold turkey and diving right into my coaching business. Wow. If I was going to work on contract, then that meant I was going to be hired as an engineering consultant. Thanks for listening to this free sample of the 7-day manifestation experiment, how you can create the life of your dreams. If you'd like to order the book, you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or on Audible in the description in the links below. Thanks again for listening. My name's Steve, and we'll talk to you next time.